morning, everybody. My name is Lauren O'Neill. I am an assistant director in the Center for Career Development and work with students interested in education, human services, and nonprofit. And I'm here today with Brian Ricca, class of 96, who's going to talk to us a little bit about what you can expect with regard to interviewing in the education system. So, Brian, would you mind just introducing yourself?
Sure. My name is Brian Ricca. As Lauren said, I'm a very, very proud graduate of Holy Cross, class of 96. I've been in education since I graduated from Holy Cross, left Holy Cross and did a stint as a volunteer in a program that was modeled after the Jesuit Volunteer Corps that unfortunately no longer exists. That program allowed me to meet my wonderful wife, who I have been married to since 2004. For the past 15 years, we were living with our family in Vermont, and then just recently we moved. I was offered an opportunity to be superintendent of schools in East Greenwich, Rhode Island, and so just this past summer, we all relocated. And I feel really fortunate that Holy Cross has asked me to be a part of this program. I'm incredibly passionate about education and getting young teachers into our classrooms and staying in our classrooms. So thank you, Lauren. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. So, when you are looking for teaching candidates and you're interviewing, what do you look for with regard to candidates?
Lauren, that's a great question. I look for the candidate's ability to build relationships with students. Because of all the devices that we all have on our person or in our pocket right now, teachers are no longer the keepers of the content. And so I look for and ask questions about how you, as a prospective teacher, will build relationships with a variety of students, not only the ones that raise their hand all the time, not only the ones that are avoiding your glance all the time, but really particularly, I try to hone in on the students that make the appropriate amount of eye contact, the students that nod along accordingly, but are still pretty quiet. And my key concern, or I guess my key focus, is how do we avoid confusing compliance with learning? And for me, that's through building great relationships. So that if you are ever in my office or in any superintendent's office looking for a job, from my perspective, you want to show how you're going to build great rapport with students so that they feel safe and welcome and included when they come to your classroom.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So what do you recommend people do to prepare for an interview as a teacher?
Going back to that first question, have examples of the hard kiddo. How do you connect with the kiddo that doesn't want to connect with you? That's one. The other one that I really focus in on is show me how you're a reflective practitioner. A lot of what I'm really proud of for the teachers that I hire are the ways that they talk about mistakes. We make them all the time. I make them as a dad. I make them as a husband. I make them as a superintendent. And the notion that we have to be perfect as educators is furthest from the truth, because we don't want our students, and I mean the ones that are in our classrooms, feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to be perfect. I can't make mistakes. Mistakes are really how we learn. And we learn by quote unquote failing forward. So the idea as a teacher that you're going to come in and interview with me and kind of be that perfect candidate, the perfect candidate doesn't exist because I'm not the perfect superintendent or any of the other roles that I play in my life. So show me that you're a reflective practitioner. Show me that you know how to build relationships with students, and really show me that you're going to be a great team player. Education is really tough right now. I'm going to be totally honest with everybody who's in the world of education. It's getting more and more polarized. Know your values, but be ready to be a team player in the organization that you're going to. We don't like silos, even in high school. It's not important that the English teacher doesn't know what the science teacher is doing, who doesn't know what the math teacher is doing. We really all have to work together to serve our students. So I'd say those are the top three things.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And
Sure.
then last but not least, I would love to hear a little bit more about your trajectory with regard to how you were brought on as a superintendent. How did you get to this place?
Wow. So I'll take you back to the year 2001 when my wife and I, she was then my girlfriend, were just dating, and I was teaching first grade at the time. And she looked at me and she said, Ricky, you're going to be a great superintendent one day. And I said, I am never, ever, ever, ever going to be a superintendent. Um, it was furthest from the classroom for me. It was, I thought, a lot of paper pushing, a lot of work with adults. And then at age 36, I was offered the opportunity to be the superintendent of schools in Montpelier, Vermont, and I became the third youngest superintendent ever. So to really answer, or ever in the state of Vermont, excuse me.
Wow.
So to answer your question, Lauren, it was by saying yes to leadership opportunities. I literally just had a conversation today before this interview with you at one of my schools, and somebody asked me a similar question. Did you ever think? I said, no, I was a first grade teacher. That was the last time I was a full-time teacher. I was a first grade teacher. And if I ever give up the leadership and want to go back to the classroom, I'm going to go right back to first grade because that's where my heart is.
Yeah.
But I've said yes to leadership opportunities. And so after Chicago, or I was a department head in Chicago, I moved to Vermont and became a principal. And so I've always wanted to grow in education. And what I've realized is that at the superintendent level, you don't have as much direct interaction with students as
Yeah.
I used to, obviously, and not as classroom teachers, which I know is the focus for this interview. But if you have been tapped on the shoulder, even at Holy Cross, because that's where some of my leadership began, by professors or organizational directors or other, if you've been given other leadership opportunities at Holy Cross, be open to that as you go forward. Because in the same way that we need wonderful, talented classroom teachers, we need people who are willing to have these hard conversations in leadership and leaning into the gray and talking to communities about the hard things and being open, being empathetic, being listeners. All of those qualities, Lauren, that I just talked to you about that have led me to leadership, I got foundational training in at Holy Cross.
Yeah.
I can think about wonderful professors, wonderful mentors, people who really encouraged me along the way at Holy Cross to do what I was capable of doing. So again, in 2001, which was 20 some odd years ago, I didn't want to be a superintendent. And here I am. And
Yeah.
here's the other thing, I love it.
Good.
So part of my message to students is, in education, find what you love and do it
Yeah.
so that you can really, truly enjoy going to work.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. This was
Sure.
wonderful.
Oh, I'm so
Um,
glad.